Joining us right here on ET Now is again a principal voice from the opposition. Milind Deora joins us. Milind, thank you very much for being with us. And to be fair, I think while everybody was bracing up for a lot of fiscal profligacy and people were fearing fiscal slippage on account of some big bang announcements, the worst detractors will perhaps say, and have you in fact been stumped by the fact that the government hasn't been overtly, loose in its fiscal policy?
Well, they've obviously, the target in terms of our fiscal deficit has now gone up to 3.4%. So in that sense, it's not good for the FRBM Act. But at one level, it's fair to say that, and the people I'm talking to, at least those who are looking at the markets, were expecting a very populist budget. And in that sense, it's not a populist budget. So you can say that it's good for the markets. But I think moving beyond the market, Supriya, there are areas of acute distress. The agrarian distress is without a doubt serious. It's undeniably a very serious issue. I don't believe that this government has addressed it. The crisis on jobs is a very, very serious issue. I don't believe they've addressed it. An area which can increase, lead to a boost in the investment sentiment, the investment climate in the country, lead to more capital coming in, lead to more jobs, or at least prevent a flight of capital from India, is really to reduce the discretionary powers of tax officials and of different agencies who today are scaring businessmen to do business in India. And that's something which one hears across the board, whether you talk to MSME traders or to industrial houses. People are for the first time afraid to do business in India. People are afraid to have conversations on their mobile phones. People are using encrypted services like WhatsApp, landlines for the first time. I've never seen a culture like this in my life. And in that sense, this e-assessment, in theory it sounds very good, but will it really see the light of day? Can it truly be implemented? Can there truly be a faceless assessment taking place between the assessing officer and an assessee? That remains to be seen. But I think to curb the discretionary powers of tax officials and create a stable, predictable regime where the government had an opportunity, they were receiving a lot of feedback from industry that there is a lot of flight of capital and we want to reduce tax terrorism. In spite of that, they did not bite the bullet. So net of net, I had a lot of expectations, frankly. I think Piyush Goyal, who happens to be a close friend of mine, he did a good job in presenting his first budget. But there was a lot more that could have been done. And unfortunately, in key areas, like I said, addressing the agrarian problem in the country, addressing the problem of unemployment, the data that just came out and got leaked a few days ago, addressing tax terrorism, I think the government has failed very, very miserably.
No, but I think that is what the opposition will say. But you've got to cut the government some slack here. And on that front, can you deny the fact that there is an agrarian economy that needed a helping hand? And on that count, the government was morally bound to do what it did, without being fiscally irresponsible. The government has given some sort of a helping hand to the agriculture sector, like you yourself are pointing out there. There are pain points that exist. Will you not cut them some slack on that count?
I don't think so, because today farmers and small and medium farmers are facing acute distress. Saying that I'm going to give you 6,000 rupees per year of some kind of support, I don't think that's enough. I wouldn't say that they've helped the farmers in any way through this budget. And I think that this government has, in fact, for the last several years, has, through its various policies, has ignored farmers. We often talk about demonetization's impact on sectors like real estate. The biggest impact of demonetization has been on the agrarian sector, on farmers. Farmers aren't using Paytm and RuPay and credit cards. Farmers transact in cash. And mind you, when you address the agrarian crisis in our country, you're not just boosting agriculture's inputs and its contribution to overall GDP growth. It has many other impacts. It for instance, curbs urbanization. It reduces unplanned urbanization. It prevents people from moving to urban areas in search of jobs. It keeps people focused on the agrarian economy. Urbanization has its own other host of problems. So I believe that they had an opportunity, and I felt that in that particular area they could have done much more, while at the same time reining in the fiscal deficit, while at the same time being responsible and not being populist. And I think that this budget, why I'm not sensing any clear direction, is neither are you populist, neither are you helping somebody, neither are you investing for the future, neither are you trying to prevent tax terrorism, neither are you trying to give businessmen the message that we're really here now to encourage you to go forward without fear. And so I don't really see anything happening. And I think the market, for instance, at least in initial trading hours, rewarded it because they were happy that it's not populist at the very least.
And then went down. Milind, please let me come in. Milind, please let me come in. And I think one of the reasons why that farm thing is being criticized is that it hasn't been thought through very well. You know, there are agricultural laborers, there are landless farmers, there are tenant farmers who are not going to be the big beneficiaries of this. But the counter question to that is, in this election season, are we going to see competitive populism? Because, you know, the Congress party is also talking about a minimum income guarantee scheme. Have you fleshed out your own scheme before this one?
Your voice is cracking up. I heard about the minimum income guarantee scheme.
I'm saying the minimum income guarantee scheme has also... Yeah. So all I'm saying is, have you been able to flesh out details of your own scheme before criticizing the farm, the package that...
Supriya, I can't, you're breaking up, but I guess you're talking about the minimum income guarantee scheme that the Congress party announced. And if you're asking me, have we thought it through? Certainly we've thought it through. We've looked at it internally from various angles. India, unfortunately, doesn't have a culture in the way that the United States does, where US elections and US manifesto promises are scrutinized by the media, are scrutinized by opposition parties. I think that's a good thing that's starting to happen. But yes, to answer your question, we have gone into numbers in as detailed a way as we can, and we're confident it can be implemented, and we believe it is the need of the hour. And we firmly believe that two things: that one is, if we commit to something, we will honor that commitment, and secondly, we wouldn't just make an announcement unless we've gone into some level of detail. I think that it's very different in the way that we approach policies as compared to the way this government has approached policies in the last 5 years. I think various policies, from demonetization even to GST, was implemented in haste with very little thinking behind that. So yes, I can assure you, and I can assure your viewers, that the minimum income guarantee proposed by the Congress party will be spelled out in detail. It can be analyzed, dissected by media, by economists, by other experts, and I'm sure you'll find it to be a policy which can work and can actually be executed.
I'm sorry, there was some technical glitch with that feed there. My question is that one of the issues that the opposition has been criticizing this budget on are the tax sops that have been given to the middle class. Can there be any quarrel with that? I mean, why should the middle class that pays taxes honestly not be rewarded? And the fact is that it may, for all you know, stoke consumption and also crowd in investment.
Is that for me, Supriya?
That's right, that's for you.
Yeah, I mean, I have no quarrels with that, and I think that I do believe that the middle class and the salaried class, the people living in cities, their interests also need to be taken care of. And you know, inflation may be low as a number, but today talk to any you know, regular household, and they'll tell you that The cost of gas has gone up from 5 years from 440 rupees to now 900, 960 in a city like Mumbai. So clearly people are out of pocket, and people have very limited disposable income to spend on luxury items, on entertainment, on leisure and things like that. So I do believe that this community and this section of society also needs some kind of relief. But I think for this section of society, what's of utmost importance, especially for the salaried class, the middle class, those living in cities, is really where are jobs going to come from? And the only area where I heard about jobs is, a mention that, jobs, so many jobs, there'll be many jobs created in the tourism sector, there'll be many jobs created in the entertainment industry. And I do agree with that, but where is a coherent strategy by this government in the last 5 years, and most importantly in today's budget, to actually say that we are investing towards creation of jobs? The problem I have with the policies of this government is there's no coherence, Supriya. So at one level, we understand that one of the biggest employment generating sectors in this country is the real estate industry. Real estate, construction, its effect on ancillary industries like cement and steel, huge employment creators. At one level, you said we need to encourage this sector. We're going to have RERA to protect the consumer, to regulate the industry. At the other level, GST rocked this sector very badly. There's no clear outcome as to how GST is going to be made easier for the sector. All the finance minister said is that we've made a recommendation to the GST Council. Will the GST Council implement that or not is yet to be seen. Then you had demonetization, which had a massive impact on the real estate sector as well. So I think that it's almost that one hand is not talking to the other hand, and that's how they go about these policies. And that's why, as a result, you've seen a major problem in every policy. At one level, you're saying we need to make in India, we need to encourage manufacturing here because that creates blue-collar jobs. But at the other side, you're seeing massive tax terrorism, unprecedented tax terrorism, an environment where businessmen are afraid to do business here. So you can't do one thing without the other. It's not an either-or debate. Both these things have to coexist. And that's how, when you're framing a policy and you have a vision and you have a goal, which is you want to create jobs, you have to look at it holistically. You can't say one ministry is doing something, the other ministry is going to put a spoke in their wheel. And unfortunately, that's what's been happening in this government in the last 5 years. Not just in today's budget, but consistently since 2014.
Milind, a quick last question before I let you go, and this question I think really resonates with our political class, whether it is the BJP or the Congress or any other political coalition. I think the glide path on fiscal consolidation is something that experts, investors and markets continue to worry about. We were supposed to get to 3% in 2008, we haven't till date, we will not next financial year as well, and this is not a problem peculiar to just this government, this was also a problem of the UPA. How does the political class then convince stakeholders that fiscal consolidation is not something elusive? You can't ignore it, and you ignore it only at your own risk.
It's a good question, and I do agree with you that it does transcend all political parties and various governments, and that's unfortunately the nature of the political economy, which is you have a finite amount of resources and you have infinite demands. And how does a government really cater to those demands, without straining the fiscal health of the economy? That's something where you need to have a balancing act and walk the tightrope. But I do believe that, every government has its tough. This government has had massive tailwinds as compared to our government. They've had low oil prices, which has certainly helped them. We had $120 oil per barrel oil prices. I mean, the government's hands were pretty much tied. Dr. Manmohan Singh had very limited flexibility in that situation. And I do believe that this government, with the tailwinds of low oil prices, with the tailwinds of being the first majority government in 30 years of India's history, had a lot of leg room to do a lot of things. Unfortunately, they failed. Unfortunately, they implemented a policy like demonetization, which set us back by 2 or 3 years. So that's why, like you said, I mean, now the fiscal deficit target has been, revised from 3.3% to 3.4%. And it is unfortunate. And I think it's something which, as we go into an election, hopefully should become a political issue. Unfortunately, in no election campaign in any of the 543 Lok Sabha constituencies in India, including South Mumbai, which has the financial markets and capital markets and the financial services industry headquartered, does this become a political and electoral issue? And if, I think, to answer your question, if the voters of this country made issues like fiscal responsibility, the fiscal health of the economy, fiscal prudence, the state of our current account deficit or current account surplus, education, healthcare, jobs, election issues, and we moved away from issues based on religion and caste, I think then you will start to see these problems get addressed, Supriya.
Okay. Okay. All right. On that note, thank you very much, Milind Deora, for joining us with your take on the budget. I think as a member of the opposition, I'm not surprised that you have criticized this on many grounds, but it's time to get a voice that will defend it. Thanks very much, Milind, for being with us.